And good morning, everybody. Welcome, Hot Takes, Goodman and Renck. Troy, you are joining us from Indianapolis for the Scouting Combine. I am glad that it is in Indianapolis, despite your flight delay, and not Puerto Vallarta, because if it was in PV, you would not be joining us this morning because you never would have gotten there.
Yeah, that or some parts of the Northeast, there were several flights canceled from DIA. So, yeah, about 2-3 hour delay in getting here between flight delay and stuck on the tarmac. But anytime you land, it's a good flight, and I'm here.
Well, maybe if the pilot had fluid hips or was good in the 3-cone drill, you could have gotten there a little bit more quickly. Before we get into the combine, and we have a lot to talk about this morning, I want to tell you about the Sportsbook Bar and Grill. You can find them in the DTC, Highlands Ranch, and Parker. I've told you for a long time it's an outstanding sports bar. It is a sports bar that was put together by sports fans, Judson and Jeremy, but I want to tell you how great the food is. We get takeout there all the time, and we got takeout there once again over the weekend because we just think the food is that great. Usually, if you're going to go to a bar, eat the bar food there. This is an upscale menu, and that's how great of an experience you are going to have. Nobody does it better in town than the Sportsbook Bar and Grill. That's why they have 3 really successful locations. Again, you can find them in the DTC, you can find them in Highlands Ranch, and also in Parker. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
I thought we'd be talking about the U.S. Olympic men's hockey team to start the show until the Nuggets played the Warriors yesterday. They've had more than a few embarrassing losses this season, but I think it is fair to say the loss against Golden State may have topped the list. The Warriors sat their top 4 scorers, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, Porzingis didn't play. And oh, by the way, Draymond Green didn't play either. After the game, Jokic said he is concerned and the players are not creating open looks. Christian Brown said, one of the problems is the players aren't holding their spots and just aren't tough enough. Adelman said the team wasn't ready to start the game against Golden State. Sometimes teams need to hit rock bottom in order to get better. Does this sound like rock bottom?
It does, in the sense that the players are acknowledging it. Usually players are delusional as to when things are going wrong, especially on a good team. They don't want to kind of admit it's spiraling. When your best player is saying he's concerned, he's noticing things, and then a player who's been watching for most of the season in Christian Brown is saying this is what he sees. Yeah, it's something that's alarming, that you hope that they can recognize they are not good enough anymore to show up and outscore teams. At some point, they have to be functional defensively. And if you want to, Eric, keep telling me, wait till Aaron Gordon comes back, wait till Peyton Watson comes back. The problem with that strategy is Aaron Gordon's barely played this year. So your solution is wait till our soon-to-be 32-year-old player who's had 9 leg injuries in the past 6 months is going to save us? That's not a great strategy. I'm sorry. And I love Aaron Gordon. He's Mr. Nugget, but that's not a fair strategy or a great strategy.
I'll tell you what's not fair is something that's about to come out of my mouth. I don't think it's fair to keep calling this team a serious title contender. We need to see more because they are not doing things that title contenders do. Specifically 2 things: playing defense regularly and playing it well, and also closing out games. And to your point, even if Gordon comes back somewhat healthy and Watson comes back somewhat healthy, they have talent. They just don't have a very cohesive team right now that's working together. And I think that's the biggest problem. I look at the Carmelo Anthony teams led by George Karl, and I'm not pinning this on George Karl. Those teams had a lot of talent. They just weren't a very good team. And right now, this team is not very good.
Well, and you identified their best player on those teams didn't play defense, Carmelo Anthony. I mean, he is a great scorer. He's a Hall of Fame scorer. He didn't play defense regularly. And then they got Chauncey, and you're like, okay, it looks right now. Then they got better. But again, here's the issue, and I wrote about this. It should come out in our debate with Sean Keeler later today in the Denver Post. Shameless plug. They don't defend the three-point line well. That's
they haven't for
issue.
Years.
Right. But in this stretch, their last 10 games, 4-6. During this 4-6 stretch, opponents, Eric, have shot 84 more three-pointers than them, and they've made 21 more. So you're giving up basically 6-7 points a game more just on three-pointers.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Now, if you want to tell me Watson's going to help that, yeah, he will. He's got length, but you're talking about you're the worst team in the league at it. So you've got to go from, the end to 15th or 12th. And see, remember, when they won the title, they were the worst defensive rated team in forever. They were right around middle of the pack, like the 15th best defensive team. That's what they have to be to have a chance to contend. And you said it, and I agree with you right now. When I look at OKC and I look at San Antonio, I don't see how the Nuggets can beat either one of those teams. If you don't start defending the three, it's going to be another 2 and done in the playoffs.
You and I have had this discussion. I think we've disagreed a little bit. I think when it comes to playing defense, I think it is 80 to 90% effort. I think the last time we had this conversation, you didn't think it was that high. It's more about having skill players who can play defense. Guarding the 3-point line, is that effort or is that skill?
I mean, it's effort because of the distance required to get out there.
There we go.
But
And
part
that's
of
the
it is,
biggest problem.
but part of it's scheme on where guys are ending up. The other part of it, it's that it's attached to it. For me, they are terrible at offensive rebounds. So teams get runouts on them all the time. If you rebound better, you control the ball better. Teams don't get 3-on-2s, because it used to be back in the day when you and I grew up, if a team got a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1, it was a layup. In the NBA now, if they get out and run out on you and they get more offensive rebounds, those become 3-pointers in transition. So yes, it is effort, but some of it is related to not rebounding well offensively enough, and they've got to figure out who their best defenders are at times. And sometimes that's got to be the lineup on the floor. Like you got to, for me, it's what, again, some of this is health, but Gordon, Watson, Spencer Jones, like Bruce Brown, and Christian Brown, you have to figure out but those 5, how often can they play together and what does that look like? Because you can't keep doing what they're doing right now and win against good teams. You should start beating bad teams, but look at their schedule. They still got 6 coming up against the Thunder and Spurs, and they got one coming up Wednesday against the Celtics. Like, it's not getting any easier.
Well, hey, let's extrapolate on that for a second. Their next 3 games are all on national television.
Right.
They start with the Celtics. Then they have OKC. Then they have Minnesota with, Ant-Man, who always has a burr in his saddle when he plays really anybody, but specifically the Nuggets. And I remember when the Broncos weren't very good and, fans are excited that they're finally on national television. I don't think this team right now is ready for prime time, especially against those teams, in which I'm not going to say they're going to lose and I'm not going to say they're embarrassed, but right now their headspace is way off. And I don't know how well they're going to be able to compete against those teams, specifically late if they are close games.
Well, you're right. They've been terrible in the clutch. And that's part when Jokic used the word concerned, he was talking specifically about them failing in the clutch. For 5 minutes left, 2 minutes left, not making bunnies, not getting the right shots. I mean, he was talking about, not getting the right shots. So some of us, you're just missing shots. I mean, that's part of it. But this next 3 games, to start feeling better about them, what do we need to? I think you need to see 2 and 1, right? You should be able to beat, in theory, you should be able to beat the Celtics at home, and you should be able to beat the T-Wolves at home. The T-Wolves have been just as disappointing of late as the Nuggets. They have major issues as well. And I don't see any way in hell right now. Maybe you beat the Thunder without SGA, but let's say, for me, Eric, don't we got to see like 2 and 1 in this little stretch to start feeling better about them?
Should we be concerned about David Adelman? We know he's a really, really smart offensive mind. And I'm not going to say that he doesn't coach defense. We never had these problems, or the Nuggets never had these problems with Michael Malone. For as much as Michael Malone would be a guy who would tear into his own players publicly, and I understand it wore on the guys in the locker room, we never saw anything like this, did we?
You talking about what, finishing?
Finishing, yeah, specifically. I mean, Malone certainly had his challenges, not wanting to play younger players. He also when he was coaching, they didn't really have major issues closing. As a matter of fact, I first learned of the word, clutch minutes under him, because people would ask him how they're playing, and he'd say, yeah, we're losing games, but we're still great in clutch minutes. We still play well late. So I'm wondering if there's a disconnect between Adelman and the team. I'm not trying to pin this on him, but I will tell you this. Can you see this team losing in the opening round pretty much no matter who they play? And if they do, where the blame lies? Are we going to blame it conveniently on injuries?
Well, people want to blame it on injuries, and that is one part. Until they get Gordon and Watson back, that helps you assess Adelman. He's had some issues this year. I pointed out that when he played Gordon in back-to-back nights, it got him hurt. I thought he made a mistake there, that he pushed it, and it was totally unnecessary. They've had some issues with that. When they were shorthanded, Adelman coached his best. But when you're going to win, you have to coach your best when you got Jokic and Murray. And one of the things that's fascinating to me is teams are really defending the two-man game better between Jokic and Murray. Yeah. And some of it is they're not making shots. Like if you go back, and I've watched a lot of Nuggets basketball this year, Jokic is just missing bunnies.
Yeah.
He misses them. So I don't want to say the offense doesn't look really different than like last year, the year before, late, but they're just not making. It's like a field goal kicker who suddenly misses the 38-yarder twice. You're like, holy crap, that guy makes that every time. So that's part of it. But yes, if they get to a point and they're a first-round exit and Gordon plays, yeah, Adelman's got to wear part of that. He's got it. And the guys love him. They trust him. They wanted him as their head coach, but they've got to start playing defense for him. Yeah. I don't want to hear we rank first in offensive efficiency and first per 100 possessions. That's not going to get you to where you want to go. You need to be better defensively, and that does fall on him. That is going to fall on him. If they get one and done in the playoffs, it doesn't matter who is injured. That's not going to be a great optics for David Adelman.
Where we're sitting right now, would it surprise you if they got knocked out in the opening round?
Yes, it would, because I think Gordon, once he comes back, they should win in the first round.
He might come back. He just may not be fully healthy, and he might get injured again.
Right.
But the way this season is gone, I am looking for every pothole on the road and thinking from a distance, how deep is that pothole where I could blow a tire?
The one reason they could lose in the first round, unlike previous years, is they're not dominant at home. Normally, I would tell you they're going to win the first round because they will win their home games. And so they're going to win. We don't know that right now. We don't know that. They are a mediocre team at home. So this last stretch of games, where we have 24 games left, I think, Eric, you got to see them get better at home, and you got to see them get better in the clutch. You got to see them get better at defense. 2 of those 3 have to start happening, or they're vulnerable to going out in the first. I still think they would win round 1, but I don't see how they get through round 2 right now, because they're not playing like a contender should play.
All right, I want to take a hard right turn to yesterday's hockey game, which was thrilling for anybody who watched it or who didn't watch it and then found out the final score and then saw the highlights. I want to quote something from your column yesterday, which I read it to my wife. I said to her, and please don't blush and please take this as a compliment. I said, Troy's a fantastic writer. I said, I want you to hear this line, and she is not a hockey fan at all, but she knows enough about the history that I've explained to her when I read her your line, which was, we will never forget 1980. We no longer have to live in the past or have a Netflix account, which really sums up everything. We have lived in the past, 1980. And the Netflix account is certainly referring to the most recent biography on the 1980 men's Olympic hockey team. With that, if these teams played 10 times, Canadians win 8 of them, and would you really call this an upset? Even though going into the Olympics, the Americans and the Canadians were favored. Would you really call this an upset yesterday?
It's still an upset based on the rosters. Based on the rosters, it is an upset.
And I agree. And that's my whole point.
When I wrote Thursday for Friday, you look at the Canadian Olympic team, the last team that you would find that many Hall of Famers on it would be like the 1930s Yankees, where everywhere you look on that Canadian team is a Hall of Famer, including two that we see every week in Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon. But yeah, it's still an upset. It's still an upset. If you just put the roster to roster, it's an upset. And even if you watch the game, and I was up at 5:30 a.m. yesterday getting ready for that, I watched every second of that game. That from the second period on, Canada absolutely dominated the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they outshot them 32-18. You've seen way more hockey than I have with your Chicago days of the Blackhawks. They dominated. They tilted the ice, as they say.
Yeah.
They were playing downhill for 2 periods. But what's the difference, Eric? Connor freaking Hellebuck played out of his mind. And I do feel sorry for one guy in all this. Devin Taves.
Yeah.
He's going to look back. And MacKinnon had a wide open net too. But I'm just saying, Taves was on the crease by himself with a little flick shot he's probably made 1,000,000 times in his life on a pond somewhere. And somehow Hellebuck falls, twitches, boom, sticks, and deflects it with his stick.
Yeah.
Come on now. But that's hockey. Hockey's the one sport like baseball where if baseball, you have a great pitcher, you can stink almost everywhere else and upset a team because your pitcher, if you have the Dwight Gooden or, Greg Maddux in his prime, whatever, pick Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez.
Yeah.
That's what Hellebuck was yesterday. One guy can even the ledger when everyone else feels like they're getting outplayed. And that's what makes hockey beautiful. And that it takes one bounce, one shift, one shot, and you lose. That's why Canada, you looked at their faces, they were so stunned. It was like, we have dominated for 41 minutes and we just lost.
Right. And it looked like, not looked like, it was. The way it's set up in the Olympics is it's 3-on-3 in overtime. And you put Makar, MacKinnon, and McDavid on the ice, and you would think they could score every time down the ice. Ironically, who was on the ice when the Americans won? The Max, Makar, McDavid, MacKinnon. And it's not what I'm about to say. I'm not going to give you pushback on this. The term in hockey is called puck luck. For Devon Taves, it was puck luck for Hellebuck. Puck luck for Hellebuck. We can make a bumper sticker. Puck luck for Hellebuck. Hellebuck got lucky. He didn't try and save that. It's just the angle of his arm and where the stick went, and he wound up making the save. So Taves can feel terrible and think about what could have been. It was puck luck there. For MacKinnon, he missed top shelf. He missed an open spot. A spot that he usually doesn't miss. Kind of like, look at the spot that he didn't miss when they played Finland. Right. And he squeezed it in there. That's what MacKinnon is great at, hitting angles. MacKinnon probably feels far worse, and then throw in his personality because he is so type A. And so, all the time. I bet he feels a lot worse than Taves does.
Yeah, knowing Nate, and I'm not around him as much as other athletes in our city, but yeah, he is strung tightly, and that one's going to haunt him as well. And
you know who he is? I'll tell you, I think, and I've said this about Nathan MacKinnon for years. If Peyton Manning and Troy Tulowitzki had a love child, if that was possible, biblically, literally, it would be Nathan MacKinnon. He is strung as tightly as Manning and Tulowitzki.
Yeah, and Nate doesn't suffer fools either as teammates or in the media. So I definitely see some of the personality and some of the obsessive personality with Peyton and both of those guys and that'll wear on him. I do wonder, in a case like that, when Nate left, I give him credit over the last few weeks, especially over there, because he was having to give interviews every day over there. He never does that back home. He doesn't talk every day. But he was a little more candid and revealing. But I do think the weight of it, he felt it, as one of their great players. Now, I don't know if he felt it as much as McDavid, but to your point, McDavid's personality, even after the game, he was like, hey, we played a great game. Sometimes in hockey, you'll play a great game and lose. MacKinnon was just more like, man, I had my shot. He was immediately going to I had an open net. I got to make that. And Is that the pressure of the moment? It's just, the nature of it. I don't know. I just know when he left to go over there, it was clearly gold medal or bust. And you said it perfectly on our show. I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, but winning the gold in hockey for Canada is the equivalent of us winning the gold in basketball in the Summer Olympics. We feel it's our birthright. We invented basketball. We should always win the gold. Whether it's realistic or not, it doesn't matter. And that's how Canada is. And it let's be honest, it had not been a great Olympics for Canada across the board. A really disappointing Olympics. And here comes their hockey team to kind of save it. And I wonder,
how about their women's hockey team?
Right.
How about curling? How about all of their sports? They
did not have a great Olympics. And that's why I wondered, now here we are, the last event, our men's hockey team, if some of those guys, privately, they were feeling it. They have a saying in hockey, squeezing the stick. Yeah. Sometimes you're just a little tight, and things you do in your sleep suddenly become abnormal. But I would hope it doesn't have a hangover effect on Nate specifically. I'm not really worried about McCarr or Taze as much. But the Avs need to win a Stanley Cup. As we're watching our Denver Nuggets, they're not a championship contender right now. No. The Avs, I've said for a long time, they are the team. It would be disappointing if they didn't win because they've been the best team in hockey from jump. That has not been the case with the Nuggets.
Oh, by the way, the Avs Olympians all contributed to their teams. They all played well.
When McCarr played like Lance Armstrong, he was like doing the Tour de France. He played a lot of minutes, and I would be resting him for a couple games. McCarr specifically, he played a hell of a lot. Brock Nelson played. I mean, congrats to Brock Nelson. We're forgetting the lead here in some ways. Congrats to him on Team USA. Now his grandpa and his uncle and he have all won gold medals. Right. I think before yesterday there were 37 men in the world that have won a U.S. hockey gold medal, and now Brock Nelson, 3 family members are now part of the new group of 53 or whatever that number is. So congrats to Brock Nelson and his family. And let's hope the Avs can get back, gather around. Landeskog's back. Lehkonen, he played out of his mind. Marty Necas played out. Every Av showed up in the Olympics. That was the one thing I took from hockey people when I talked to. Are like, holy crap, are the Avs loaded?
They are. One more quick thing. Watching yesterday's game with the United States winning, we have problems in our country, but honestly, yesterday's game, I think, probably brought everybody together for maybe 5 minutes. Maybe it was a little bit longer than that. Pick a team that you grew up watching that won a championship. As you were watching that championship and as you were watching yesterday, which game, your country or your team, were you more excited about at the final buzzer when they won?
I mean, it's just one of those weird, the country in the moment I'm more excited about. But when your team wins, it resonates longer because I don't watch that country team again for 4 years.
Correct.
So I was initially, as a young kid, I haven't been since I've been probably 13 years old. I was a Dallas Cowboys fan because of Roger Staubach. Loved Roger Staubach. So when they beat the Broncos in whatever Super Bowl that was in 1977, can't think of the actual number of the Super Bowl.
Dallas Richards goes over the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Golden Richards.
Richards, not Dallas Richards.
Hollywood Henderson, Tony Dorsett, Cliff Harris. That was my team. So when they won, I remember that. I still remember that to this day.
Right.
The Olympic thing resonates more in the moment, but not for years. How about you?
I think you said it beautifully. In the moment, it's a wow. Like when the Nuggets won the championship, it was a wow. But you're right. It does resonate longer because you have the parade and then you have all the talk. And obviously this is what we do. But for your country, it's very acute. For your team, it's chronic. It does last for a while.
It does
have legs.
I jumped up when he scored that goal yesterday. So I'm at my kitchen table, I'm writing and taking notes. But then when my wife came down for the end of the game, because again, it started at 6 a.m. our time. So she came down around whatever time that was, it's 8:15 or I'm sitting on the couch and then I'm sitting there and then he scores that goal and I'm like, holy shit. I jumped up. Like, it was that moment where, like, that's what I love about sports. Like, I've only ever gotten like that excited in recent years over my son's games, because you have a real vested interest when it's family involved. And my youngest son won a national championship, and I'll never forget that as a parent. But this was one of the, it was just that kind of moment. You're like watching, you're like, I'm so into this, and oh, he's shut up. I'm jumping up and down. I'm like, oh man, I love this. It remembers, like, this is why I grew up loving sports, is moments like this.
At the risk of dropping my pants when I make this comment, because what I'm about to say is a double entendre, people will say, where were you when the 80 team won? I don't know if people will say, where were you when the 2026 team won? I can tell you where I was. I was in the bathroom at the time because I was watching it on my phone because I didn't want to miss a second of it. So I had it on in both rooms, depending on where I was, but I had to go to the bathroom that badly, and I'm watching on my phone. So let's just say I did not jump up from where I was sitting. With that, you are at the Combine. We're going to talk about that and just how important is the Combine. Is it really the best way to evaluate future NFL players? And sorry for the potty humor. It is early. I get it. But then again, you're 2 hours ahead of me. So you've already had breakfast. For a lot of people watching this, they haven't yet. Sorry. We'll be back. Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corned bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. All their locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook, great hangout bar, great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 5-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Black Hawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a Ford Maverick Tremor truck or nearly $25,000 in cash the weekend of May 16th. Earn daily entries with every locked-up jackpot or by redeeming points on your player card. You can also earn a chance to win during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes between 10 a.m. and midnight. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corned bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver. Troy, you still have that image of what we talked about before we went to break? Good. I'm glad you got it out of your system. And literally and figuratively yesterday, I did too, as I keep doubling down. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Ferguson's Heating and Cooling. Your family should trust the Ferguson family for all your heating and cooling needs, and you'll see why they have over 165 5-star Google reviews. Make an appointment today at fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
All right, Troy, you're in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine. For those that have never had the opportunity to go, take us through the process, start to finish, and what it is like and what the experience is like since you've been going to this many, many years.
Yeah, I think this is my 10th or 11th straight combine. And again, for those of you that watch college football, it's that part of the experiment. It blends the love for college and football and the NFL. And you start now trying to figure out, how do college football players project into an NFL roster? And I've tried to tell people this forever. The college football game is not the NFL. At certain positions it is, others it is not. So when you're at the combine, from a media perspective, one of the things that's great is still one of the events that's covered enormously, because you have a lot of college football writers who are here. So it's like a lot of papers don't travel like they used to. A lot of TV stations don't. But when you start talking about college, you have Georgia TV stations, Alabama TV, because all these prospects are here. So that's number one. It's still covered in a way that has a buzz to it. And when that happens, you have a lot of ideas being exchanged. And teams, for the most part, not like they used to, send a chunk of employees. Not every team. The Rams don't. Their head coaches aren't going to even be here. McVay and Liam Cohen from Jacksonville, not even coming to the combine.
Correct.
But you have coaches here who, what is the purpose of the combine for most coaches? Is to look at a guy in person and to see if it matches what you've seen on tape. Because sometimes a guy's like, oh my God, this guy's bigger, faster than I thought. Or when he's standing next to a whole bunch of other guys who specifically should play in the league, he doesn't look the part. And that happens. Mm-hmm. But the big part for this is, how do you separate in interviews if a guy's going to fit your scheme? And that's where Sean Payton is really good in these situations.
Yeah, but they're 15-minute interviews.
But you'd be shocked. I talked to someone a couple of weeks ago that has sat in on these interviews multiple times, and they can reveal if a guy, not every time, but does he fit our scheme? How does he deal with adversity? Because a lot of times, Eric, people think when they do these interviews that it's, oh, here's a bunch of your great plays and it's your greatest hits. No, it's, here's where you got beat on third down in coverage. Here's where you threw a pick. What happened here? What was the coverage here? And you can find out with certain guys. And I found out from someone recently who said, this was from a very good source of a former NFL GM from a few years ago. They said, which players stand out most in this? And he said, anyone who played from Alabama. Anytime we go to the whiteboard, these guys know more about any player that we interview. So, I mean, these are the things you learn in the combine. What other players, because Sean Payton is very clear, he wants no lower than a C learner in terms of the football scheme. He's not going to try to take a guy who's a D learner and get him up to speed at this point in his career. He's done with that. So these are the things you can learn. But can it be overrated? Can it get overstated? You hear about the combine guys who jump in the draft. Always dangerous. For me, their college film should always matter most.
Yes.
But you do need to, personality-wise, is this guy who they're telling? Because these are the first times the head coaches and the GM, really, for the most of the first time you're talking to them in person. What are they like? What's the vibe? Is this guy a fit for us? And that matters for the Broncos. So it's a fascinating process. It takes too long, and it's become now contrived a little bit for TV. But at the end of the day, and the other thing that it's probably the most important that has no interest to fans is the medical. The reason it stays in Indianapolis is they have medical people on site where they go underneath the dome, and they can go right from checkup to checkup to checkup to go to participate. That's why everyone loves Indy. We're like, why in the hell are they in Indy? Well, it's centrally located, but they love the fact that all these stations, it's a clearinghouse to figure out if guys are healthy. And what's crazy, Eric, they have these guys Like, okay, yours is at 4 a.m. Another guy's is at 11 p.m. They try to see if they're going to miss an appointment. That's another part of this. They give them the oddest, weirdest times to make these medicals to see if they can basically follow instructions and be responsible.
I don't know how valuable the combine is. I think there are other things that are more valuable, starting with something that you just said, and I'll piggyback onto it. How did you look in the game? That is the most important thing. But some of these drills, honestly, are ridiculous, where you have a quarterback throwing to a wide receiver and nobody's covering the wide receiver. Some of the long jump or the high jump or the 3-cone drill. I mean, it's position dependent as well. I just think way too much is put into this in terms of evaluating players. And some of the people I've talked to have been at the combine for a long time would echo exactly what I am saying. I think the combine is just as much for the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce as it is for the NFL. There are some things that are beneficial, but I don't think it is even close to being the end-all be-all. If you had to put a percentage on it for everything that is done, what percentage is truly relevant for evaluating a player? Because remember, you talk about a 15-minute interview, that's speed dating. If you really want a player, bring him in. Then you will have a better understanding of who this guy is and what he can do. 15 minutes, I mean, basically what you're saying is, in a 15-minute interview, you have to make a decision whether or not to marry someone and give them millions of dollars. It's just not realistic.
Yeah. Well, part of it is the poker game where some teams don't bring in guys on their 30 visits on purpose to tip their hand. Like some of it's a little bit of weird poker game.
You want me to give you a really good example? A perfect example of
Bradley
this.
Chubb never came in, for instance,
Okay.
for the Broncos.
Okay.
He never had a
Let me
visit.
give you even a more important example with the Broncos. Mike Shanahan rarely, if ever, went to the combine. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
I was told by an impeccable source who was involved in the process, they didn't want anyone to know that they, talking about the Broncos, were interested in Jay Cutler. They wanted that to fly so far under the radar that they didn't want to tip off any team they were potentially going to draft him. They wanted him. Now, from what I understand, way back in the day, Shanahan wanted Leinart more than anybody else. But knowing Leinart was going to go before them anyway, it was Cutler. But what I was told was we barely even talked to the guy because we didn't want anyone believing we were taking him. And you know what? That turned out to be a huge mistake because they
100%.
barely got to know him. And if they had gotten to know him, I'm not so sure Shanahan would have drafted him.
Yeah, at a lot of positions, you can probably ignore personality and leadership traits. But when your quarterback's kind of aloof, pouty, stuck up, arrogant, I'm not sure that's the guy. Like, that's who we want to be our leader. But you said, I think you went to the extreme as you're wont to do. That it's just a Chamber of Commerce event. Again, part of this for this so important is the medicals. Because you can't trust what a college team is telling you about a guy.
There's no question.
And you can't trust what the agent's saying. That's
agree.
just the reality of the situation.
But what I'm saying is I'm not trying to make it hyperbolic. I'm saying there are some things that are important. The medicals are important. I'm with you on that.
Michael Penix, for instance, that's part of the reason his thing was so big here.
And to your point, I like what you said when you just brought up, can guys show up on time? Right? If they have an appointment, that is a big deal. That has nothing to do with football. But when we see a lot of things on the field, you have guys running the 40, right? Not in pads. How is that applicable? Is it?
Well, again, football people, they get into the weeds on this. I don't as much. They would tell you, well, if we think this guy's a 5th rounder and he's going to be on special teams, that's why the 40-yard dash was invented. I did a story about this several years ago when I was at the Post, my first tour. Gil Brandt, the famous former Cowboy scout, he invented the 40-yard dash because that's how far back in the day you would have to cover on a punt. So it was to identify special teams guys on coverage teams and on both coverage and return teams. That's how because I'm like, how did you come up with the 40? It was how long do they take based on hang time? Can a guy cover a punt? But the only time it's where it'll jump is like there's certain positions. Like let's say like Jacob Rodriguez, this great linebacker from Texas Tech. I love the guy. He's a playmaker and he's a great college player. What does he look like next to other guys who are going to get drafted, like the Sonny Smith, the kid from Ohio State? And if he runs a 4.89 or something, you're like, that just doesn't work in the NFL. So those are the things that are interesting to me. For the most part, a lot of this becomes eyewash. You're like a bunch of guys who look like, and the problem with the combine has become, and I know some coaches fret about this, these guys train for the combine.
Correct.
So it's like you have a kid and you're going through this now, you take SAT courses or ACT courses, you basically learn how to take the test.
Yeah.
So it's not like, hey, Eric, let's go outside and let's run and see who's fastest, like back in the day. It's like, no, let me train for 6 weeks in Scottsdale and eat and change my diet. So is that the player you're getting? Or the guy, as soon as they leave that environment, it's like being on Biggest Loser or whatever.
Right.
Like in that environment, for the most part, it should work. But as soon as you leave there, who are you? And that's some of the worry with some of these coaches is, yeah, they all train for it.
Right.
Their agents pay for it. But what are they going to be like as soon as they're out of that? And then some of these rookies, and even Bo Nix, they're exhausted because they start the training like 2 days after their bowl game.
Right.
And so they basically go from whatever, January 15th, all the way through to May, where they finally get on a pro campus and they're like, holy crap. They're just like mentally and physically fatigued. So, but again, that's why the combine, it's not as organic as it used to be, I guess is the word, where you get a real feel for a guy, where now it's like, is this the guy or is this the guy that learned to take the test?
The combine is similar to me when it comes to, does an NFL player have a drug problem? And this is what I mean by that. Everybody knows the day that they are going to be tested.
Right.
All you have to do is be clean for that particular day. It doesn't mean this guy doesn't have a drug problem throughout the entire year. He was just smart enough to make sure he didn't get caught that particular day. And when you look at the combine and you look at, I don't know, let's use this guy's name as a verb. You don't want to get Mike Mamulid. If you remember back in the day, this guy was a workout freak. He aced the combine.
For our listeners, he was an edge rusher from Boston College who was really on nobody's first-round draft board.
And he wasn't a bad NFL player.
No.
He just got drafted way too high because he aced it. I'll give you the opposite example. I'm sure you know Jay Lewinberg pretty well. Is that right?
Yep. Covered him in college.
Okay. So Jay and I have been friends for a long time. He told me this story about the combine. He was an All-American at Colorado. And he's like, I don't need to prepare for this combine. He goes, I showed everything I need to show on tape. Everybody knows that I can play. I played at the highest level. I won a national championship. I am not going to fucking train for this thing because everybody tells me that I should train. Well, guess what? I think he slipped to the 5th round. And if you ask him today, he will tell you it's the biggest mistake he ever made because he blew a lot of money by thinking my tape will do everything for me.
Yeah, and that's the danger is maybe he showed up and he didn't. I don't know his combine results in front of me.
No, I'm telling you, he told me he did not train for it,
but
almost out of spite.
Right, and I get it, but maybe he was supposed to do 22 reps of 225 and he did 16, and like, oh God, he can't hold his spot. Is this guy a guy that can anchor the middle of the line? That's why, guys, you can't take any of it lightly because some of these teams, they mine the data to the point where it's just nauseating, where you can't just say it's my film. I'll say this. The one guys that can get away with the more of just watch the film are SEC guys. And now, if we're being fair, the Big Ten, because they play against guys every week who are going to be in the league, where you really have to be careful. If you're not in the SEC or Big Ten right now, those are the guys you have to test well. You don't have to be the top of your class, but you can't show things that indicate that, man, against better competition, how will he size up? Here's what's so funny. I go back to all the way to Dan Reeves. Remember when I don't know if you remember this, they drafted Ted Gregory.
Yep.
A defensive lineman from Syracuse. And I'd have to go back and look at the history of what they saw in the combine, but he showed up and he was like 2 inches smaller and 40 pounds lighter than they thought. It was like they drafted the wrong Gregory.
Right.
And that would never happen now, but that's like to the point of where the combine mattered, is like getting independent results on guys that you can't trust from colleges. Because every college media guide gives a guy 2 inches and 30 pounds type thing.
More for public consumption, the one thing that gets focused on more so than anything else is not your 40 time, is not your medicals. It is your Wonderlic test. Yeah. How did you test on that?
Yeah, missed me with that thing.
How overrated is this Wonderlic test that everybody gravitates to, specifically when it comes to quarterbacks?
I hate it. I hate everything about it. Now, if you bomb a test that involves inference and problem solving, it concerns me. If you I don't even know what the high is. It's usually somewhere in the 30s. But if there's been quarterbacks who are getting like 9s to 12s. That's a problem, because you have to have a certain level of intelligence to understand a football playbook. You just do. It's not easy. I get it's not rocket science, but if you have trouble just with knowledge in general and memory, you can't play quarterback in the NFL. But it's just
but you know what? But I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback on that for this reason. Because you can't, you could have really high football intelligence.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to have something in your brain that's smart, even if it's just football smart. Fine. No Wonderlic is.
Well, let me
it's testing some general skills. I don't like it. I don't think it's applicable the way they want to think it is. They're trying to find out how you problem solve, how you react to certain things. It's weird ass questions, make you think out of the box, that I just like, really? What the hell does that have to do with football? But if you're just you're not able, Eric, to process information, football or life, I don't know that you can play quarterback in the NFL right now. I just don't think you can.
Do you liken the Wonderlic test in some ways to the SATs?
A little bit, because I mean, it's been a long freaking time.
Okay, let me ask you something.
But I just, like, to your point, the SAT test, what the hell does it have to do with real life? Like that, those are the problems with tests I have like that.
I'm bringing this up for a reason. I am guessing did you take the SATs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ACT. The ACT was a bigger deal when I was in school.
And what did you get? Probably like a 27 plus. What'd you get?
On the ACT?
Yeah.
I mean, fuck. I mean, we're talking about how many years ago now. I think I got a 27 or 28 on the ACT. I did better on the SAT because you could write.
What did you get on the SAT?
I know I aced the English part.
Okay, so this is why I'm asking. By the way, don't ever say fuck on this show again. Oh, wait a minute.
Wait, dang it.
This is why I bring this up. You may not think I'm a very bright guy personally.
Yeah, okay. Fair. Good job.
But you know me very, very well, and the things I've done in media and outside of media with business. What I'm about to tell you, I wear with great pride as a talking point to other people. Would you like to guess what I got on my SATs? SAT. Now remember, it's 400. You walk in the door, you get 400 for math, 400 for verbal. You automatically start at 800, which is stupid to me because I don't know why you just don't start it at 0. Whoever put together this test doesn't make any sense either. Why are you starting it at 800? So with that, I run 2 businesses. I certainly need to know math, and I talk for a living. And there was a time where I wrote for a living as well. So if you start at 800 and it goes to 1600, what did your buddy Eric get on the SAT?
I don't want to guess because
I'm going to ask you to guess.
You're setting it up as if you bombed it.
Okay. So what do you think I got?
I mean, 1,300, 1,200,
860.
Jesus Christ! Did you fall asleep?
Nope. Just not a good test taker. And I overthink everything. But no one would ever look at me, I don't believe, and say, boy, this guy's pretty stupid. So my point in all of that is, with the Wonderlic test, don't judge somebody on one day. Don't judge them on one test, because it isn't always an accurate assessment of who they are. I tell people I got an 860 with pride. I'm saying this publicly on a podcast to basically just say, you can do pretty well in life, even though you've had a bad day. And quite frankly, I remember getting those tests in the mail. I knew I didn't do well. I walked upstairs into my bedroom, closed the door, opened it up, and I just looked at that paper and said, looks about right. And I never took it again. I never took it again.
Well, I
would have been Prop 48 if I was an athlete.
That's crazy, because I would have never guessed you would test that low. But I know people that I grew up with and kids that I've coached. They're not good test takers. Whether it's the format, whether it's just the actual test itself.
Yep.
And you're an example, a shining example of what's wrong with the SAT and the Wonderlic.
Right. That's going to do it for us. Go enjoy watching guys in their underwear stepping on scales. We will talk tomorrow. You've been watching Hot Takes with Goodman and Renck. Make it the best possible combine day you can.